Good morning to all out there. It is Thursday morning, actually, on the 19th. This is Pastor Rick from Stony Lane Church here in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. What I'll be doing today is about a 10-minute recap of last night's Bible study. We have a midweek study from 6:30 to 8 o'clock every Wednesday here at the church. We have our normal service on Sunday at 10:30. And so what I do is I do a recap after both of those. So my Sunday recap is on Tuesday morning, and my Wednesday recap is this morning at 10 o'clock. So we'll be in Proverbs chapter 4. We're going to try to cover 11 verses today. I want to try to do this in roughly 10 minutes. So if you have your Bible, follow along with me. I'll read the verse, and then I'll just give kind of a brief description or understanding of the verse. So Proverbs 4:8 says, this is talking about wisdom, and she is personified as a woman. Verse 8 says, esteem her and she will exalt you, embrace her and she will honor you. To esteem her means to exalt or to be lifted up. To embrace means to clasp or to embrace. And so we see that if we esteem her, she will exalt you. If you embrace her, again, wisdom, she will honor you. And I believe that to the degree that we choose to do that, we will see that particular result. We have seen in verse 7, I'm going to finish covering this Sunday, that wisdom is supreme, therefore get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding. And so I'm really challenging the congregation and even last night's Bible study, and now you, to desire to get wisdom because it is so important. Verse 9 says, she will set a garland of grace on your head and present you with a crown of splendor. I believe what this is talking about in its simplicity is to the degree, or as we continue to get more and more wisdom and more understanding, something about how we handle ourselves just in life in general becomes very appealing to people. They see that you have the ability to think things through clearly and come up with really good conclusions and make good decisions in that. And over the course of your testimony of your life, I believe people will notice that. I have this nice little saying that I have, that while we believers are here on planet Earth, we are the visible representation of the invisible God. Jesus was on planet Earth 2,000 years ago for 33 to 33 and a half years. He was a visible representation, but now we are that visible representation. You are a testimony of who Jesus is, and I hope that you're a good testimony. I hope that I'm a good testimony. Verse 10 and 11 kind of go together. I'll do verse 10 first. It says, listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. We saw previously that this is either David talking to Solomon or Solomon talking to his son. And what we've seen is the role of a father or a parent to a child should instill in that child the desire or the thirst to listen to their instruction. That is becoming that's happening less and less. I certainly see this in the American culture, where quite often the kids are running the show, so to speak. And so because we want, and we as believers should have that sense toward our God, the God of the universe. Listen, my son, and accept what I say, because the benefit will be yours. When it talks about the years being many, I believe that is length of life as well as quality of life. Now we do know that this is not a guarantee, because we know some believers die young, but if you embrace wisdom, you have a far better chance of these things happening. Verse 11 says, I will guide you in the way of wisdom and lead you along straight paths. Again, this is wisdom speaking as well, through either David or Solomon. I will guide you in the way of wisdom, in other words, the right way, the best way, and lead you along straight paths. We see that here, straight paths means the narrow path or the narrow road that's somewhat strict and restricted. The broad road is the way that leads to destruction. I think we see that in Matthew, but the narrow road leads to life. Verse 12, when you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. We know that the life that we have here on planet Earth is called walking the Christian life, or walking with the Spirit. And so there's an aspect of walking that means that we are making progress. We're not standing still. We are walking with the Lord. And then also, it's and so when you walk, your steps won't be hampered. I mean, think about that. How great would that be? To know that as we're navigating through this Christian life, we're not constantly being tripped up. We're not letting the results of bad decisions ultimately come to fruition in our lives. But then it says, when you run, you will not stumble. Clearly, when you are running, you have a greater chance of potentially tripping or stumbling. We see in some of Paul's writings, he talks about running the race. And so there is a point where we need to continue toward that prize. But when we use wisdom to do that, we won't be stumbling in our walking, and we won't be tripped up when we're running the race. Verse 13 says, hold on to instruction, do not let go, guard it well, for it is your life. So, there's action here. Hang on to it, grasp onto it, hold it tightly, cherish it, because as we saw in verse 7, it's supreme. We should desire this wisdom. Though it costs a lot, verse 7 says, get understanding. And so there's this sense of holding on to it, grasping on, being active in it. Verse 14 says, do not set foot on the path of the wicked, or walk in the way of evil men. The writer here takes a little shift, a little turn here. Now he's talking about what not to do. And we see here, do not set foot on the path. In other words, don't even make that first movement toward it. Like, nip it off in the bud. We will continually on planet Earth make mistakes. We will continually choose the wrong thing. But the goal here is when you see something that wisdom goes against, don't dabble in it. Don't even set your foot on the path or walk in the way of evil men. In other words, if you set your foot on that path, don't continue that walk. You may get tripped up and set your foot, but what the writer here is saying is don't go that way. That is the way of evil men. And then verse 15, we have four things that the writer here says in verse 15. And I'll read it and then I'll kind of explain it briefly. It says, verse 15, avoid it. Do not travel on it. Turn from it and go on your way. Four different things it says. Avoid it. Do not even go near it. Stay away from it. Avoid it. That makes sense. Second thing, do not travel on it. Again, this is, if you don't avoid it, then now you need to determine, I'm not going to continue to travel on this and get off. But that is the second step in it. Then the third thing it says is turn away from it. This is do a 180. If you do continue down, you're still not lost yet, or you're not lost, but you're still not too deep into it. Turn around and get off. Do a 180. And then the fourth thing it says is go on your way, or go on the right way. And so Solomon, or the writer here, recognizes that as humans, we may tend to do that. He's giving us this admonition to don't do it, but if you do, get off quickly. If you go too far, just then do a 180 and get off and go on the right path. The next one, verse 16 says, for they cannot sleep until they do evil. They are robbed of slumber until they make someone fall. I made mention last night when it says, for they cannot sleep until they do evil. This almost reminded me of someone who has an addiction to something. In other words, sleep should come normally and naturally to us as humans. God designed us to sleep. He designed us knowing we have to sleep. But a lot of things disrupt our sleep patterns. And so we see here that these particular people can't even sleep until they do evil. It's almost like an addiction, like this, they're driven to it. And then it says, they will be robbed of slumber until they make someone fall. So this is now potentially like physical harm. Again, this just continues to get ramped up. Verse 17 says they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. This eating the bread of wickedness is ill-gotten gains. They may steal or rob, and then they buy food with it, so to speak. but it is ill-gotten gains, and so it is wickedness that they're doing. And then the B part, they drink the wine of violence. You know, you can rob somebody to get their money and then buy food with it without hurting them, so to speak. But I think the B part just talks about now there's violence involved, and sin always wants to go to the next step. And then verse 18, we'll close with this. I'm at my 10-minute mark. The path of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, shining ever brighter until the full day of light. I kind of explained this last night, and I really challenged those who were there to get excited about the fact that when you first choose to be a believer, and then you understand the importance of choosing and grasping onto wisdom, you kind of see the light, so to speak. You kind of recognize this is the right thing to do. And then to the degree that you consistently follow that and move toward that, it just keeps getting brighter and brighter. That's what we have here. It says the path of the righteous, the walk that we're on is what it says, is like the first gleam of dawn. When that first little bit of light shows, you've got a little bit of information, you're a new believer, or you've been a believer, but now you're really getting serious about your Christian walk. But then it says it's shining ever brighter until the full light of day, which may be considered the noontime. We have the rest of our lives to look forward to. We can determine to have wonderful momentum in the Christian life. And I think this is just an admonition to be excited about the fact that as we grasp wisdom and we get into God's Word, we will be ever increasing in our information that we have, and our wisdom will be increasing. That will continue on until we leave planet Earth. That is an exciting thing to think about. My time is way past up, the longest one that I've ever done, but we did 11 verses. I look forward to seeing you back here Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock to go over the Sunday message. Have a good rest of the day. God bless.